Good morning. Um, I'm Brock, Tina's son. Yep. So before we start, I'd like to have a word of prayer. So let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for your love and your mercy and just for everything you do for us. God, I ask that you be with me while I'm up here. Help my words to be yours and not my own. Jesus, we love you. Hear my pray. Amen. So, with this mission, one sec. There we go. Mission to India. So with this mission, there was this one main theme that stuck with me this whole time while we were there. It was this theme of prayer and how God was working throughout this whole trip by faith and not just by me working alone. So, yeah, prayer has impacted my life greatly. And with that, I have some stories to tell you from this trip that involve prayer and faith. So, first, I would like to talk about this guy. His name was Dotu. Now, he went on a mission to India back when I was still in middle school. But I remember going to Sunnydale and hearing his stories of his mission trip. And one story that really stuck with me from him was how through prayer and through faith, he met this guy, and he was paralyzed. He couldn't walk from the legs down, couldn't feel him at all. And he ended up going to visit him every day, and eventually through faith and through prayer, God healed him, and he was able to walk again. So that really inspired me to want to go on a mission trip to India so I could experience God in that same way. So now moving on to the trip that I was blessed to attend. Theme of prayer, yeah. This is the group that I was assigned to. I had a translator. His name was Raj. He is the dude in the very back middle with the white shirt on. Great guy. Love him. He's awesome. And then there's Owen with the blue, my friend Kevin with the kind of gray shirt on in the back, tucked behind him. So this is my quote-unquote travel slide. So I went into this trip thinking that the travel was going to suck. I thought it was going to be terrible because here in America we are blessed. We have nice buses with air conditioning, comfy seats. And I thought we were just going to be sweating all the time, uncomfy seats, and whatever. So I thought it was going to be bad. But, I thought it was going to be terrible. So I ended up praying to God and asking God to have the travel not suck, I know it's small and whatever, but it was great. God answered my prayer through the translators on the bus that we were at. So let me backtrack a little bit. So we would pull up to the school and we'd get on a bus. And on this bus, we had all of us missionaries and all of our translators. And we had like a 3-hour bus ride to these little drop-off points. And then we would get on these things called tuk-tuks. They were fun. They were fun to ride around, little 3-wheeled cars. It was cool. But whenever we got on this bus, the translators we were with, they were always singing, always having a good time. Everybody was always laughing, being great. And we were all just talking, having a good time on these buses. So that's how God answered my prayer through that, was through the translators making our time good. And then seeing God's nature on these tuk-tuks, because you're just on a 3-wheeled car and you're driving throughout the roads to get to your village that you were preaching at. And so God answered my prayer through that, through travel and through translating. This is my children's slide. These 2 children were very special to me. I sadly only know one of their names. I forgot the other one. But it is this little boy. He's in the corner, he's smiling with his hand on his mouth. His name is Samuel. And I feel really bad. I forgot the little girl's name, but she was cute. But I prayed to God to give me comfort on this trip. The year before this year, I went on a trip to India, and the side I was at didn't have very many kids. So I would hear these stories on people getting the experience to go and have the trip and go like play soccer in the fields with a whole bunch of little kids and like throw a football around with them while they would wait for people to start showing up so they could start preaching their evangelistic meetings, because that's the whole purpose we were there, to preach to them. And God, oh yeah, and I was super jealous. I really wanted that experience this year. And God gave me that experience through these two kids. They would like run around the village, grab all their friends and bring them, and we would like play soccer, and they taught me how to play cricket with like these racquetball things. It was cool. So I was super blessed, and I just had a lot of fun waiting for my sermon to start with the children. So that's another way that God answered a prayer for me. This is Raj's slide, my translator I was talking about earlier. Before coming to India, sorry. Oh yeah, so this is Raj. He was a very important person to me while I was in India. This was our second year preaching together, because the year before I also went to India, and we preached last year, or that year before. So it just felt it was perfect. I prayed for him to show up in my life and preach for me again, which was a blessing. He made my trip so much better, and it just, since we preached the year before together, it felt like we were the dynamic duo, peanut butter and jelly. Really good, really good. But Raj, he had just recently had his firstborn son. And his firstborn son and his wife were in the hospital. Like, when I say firstborn, like a week before, like we came to India, his son was born. So they were just chilling in the hospital. Everything was good. But I was curious. I was like, Raj, why are you leaving your kid and your wife to come and preach with us? Like, you should be there with them. And he told me that they will be okay. I'm doing God's work, and when I'm faithful to him, he is faithful to me. So that stuck with me. I think about that a lot. But if you haven't noticed that whenever God is trying to do something amazing, like these evangelistic meetings that we were doing and preaching and spreading his word, that Satan is also trying to do something. He's trying to shut it down. He's trying to make sure that we won't succeed, but we know that with God we can succeed, and that with God everything is going to be okay. But Satan, he tried to put us down. So one night, everything was okay. We get back from our meetings. Me and a few friends are playing volleyball with some of the students there outside, trying to kill time before we eat supper because we were hungry. So we were playing outside, and I remember Akash, the main coordinator guy, the one who set up us being able to go to India and preach the word, coming to us and asking all of us to gather together and have a group prayer. And I was confused. I didn't know what he was talking about. But he told us that Raj had to go to the hospital where his wife and his newborn son were, because his son was having some lung problems. Akash told us that the baby turned blue, as you do when you lose oxygen. So he asked us to pray for Raj and pray for his family, so that the doctors can have the wisdom and the knowledge to know what to do for them. And I remember going to bed that night, begging God to let his son live and to give the doctors the wisdom to know what to do for the baby. And the next morning, we were having breakfast. I was still thinking about the whole situation a little bit, still praying to God a little bit. But Akash, he sees us in there, and he comes like sprinting in the room, and he brings us great news. He tells us that Raj's son is perfectly okay. They found out what was wrong with him, and they got him some medicine. They fixed it. They fixed the problem. And this was a huge miracle that Akash was telling us, because the baby was supposed to be dead, but God kept him alive, and he worked a miracle through that way. And I personally believe that God worked a miracle that day through Raj and through his family. And that story right there is a big reason why I believe prayer is powerful. So, this is the older lady's story, older lady's slide. So this story has also affected me a lot in my life. I wish I had a picture of her. I don't. I'm sorry. But this older lady, she would walk to our meetings every night. And she lived far away. She lived like about 1.5 miles. And it was just her by herself in her own little hut, just walking to try to learn more about God every night. Now, this lady, she had Parkinson's, and every night that we were there, me and my translator, we would have prayer over her. And she would ask us to pray for her Parkinson's and pray for healing and pray for her friends and pray for her family. Now, keep in mind, this lady, she never knew Jesus before coming to our sermons and coming to our meetings. So I thought that it was powerful that she was putting faith in God, even though she just met him. But yet, even though she didn't know God, she still wanted us to pray for her. So whenever we were in India, we would preach, and then we would have these off days. And on these off days, we would go out to our villages and go just meet the people that were there. We would go sit. I wasn't allowed to eat any of the food, sadly. It looked really good. But they would like try and serve us food, and we would talk and just try and get to know the people, introduce them to God a little bit more, kind of connect with them on a more personal level instead of me just sitting here spewing out Jesus to them in front of them. Actually try and connect with them a little bit, right? So I remember going to this woman's house and sitting down with her and her family, and they were welcoming. It was amazing. But right before I was about to leave, she stood up and walked over and grabbed my translator by the hand, and proceeded to tell us that her Parkinson's was getting better. And then she continued to tell us that she believes in our God, even though she just met him like a week ago. And to me, that was, And she told us that every night she would go home and she would pray and have faith that God would give her some relief from her Parkinson's, and so that she might have an easier time walking to our meetings every night to learn more about him and his love. So to me, this was very eye-opening. I started tearing up. It was amazing to see God's work right in front of me. So that was amazing. So this older lady, she just told me that because my translator and I introduced her to God, and that we had faith that he would work miracles, that she also believed and had faith that God would work a miracle in her life. And that just touched my heart, and really hope it touches yours too. But seeing God work is such an amazing thing, and everything is possible with him. So I have a Bible verse for this slide, and then we'll move on to the next one after. But it is found in Philippians 4, verses 6 and 7. It was the scripture reading for today. But I want to challenge you to bring your requests to God, no matter how big or how small that they might be. And through faith and through prayer, God will answer them. So And it's also important to remember that everything is under God's will. So, yeah. Can we move on to the next presentation? Next presentation, please. Okay, so this year I was blessed to also attend a trip to Africa. Now the first thing I would also God worked in my life in different ways than He did while I was on a trip to India, and I will share those with you. But first thing I would like to talk about is Kibidula. Yeah, Kibidula. Kibidula is this huge farm. And at this farm, they have a mission. Their mission is to ultimately bring people closer to God. And they do this by giving the farmers there a good living wage, because in Africa, the farmers around are not paid very well, and the work environment is terrible, and they're treated really bad. And there's even some parts that involve child labor and use those for free work. So Kibidula is providing a good, stable work wage and a good, stable work environment. So they also have a missionary school there where they train these people to go out and talk about the Lord and talk about Jesus Christ and what He does. There is a elementary school there, so they can go from the elementary school, and then they can go on to the mission school, and then they can go on from there. So that's really cool. And one of the biggest things that they have there is a huge avocado farm. This avocado farm kind of supports the whole operation that they have. They were talking numbers with us. It's worth millions. It's really cool. I think that picture, down in the back, you can see they have 500 acres of just straight avocado trees. It's really cool. And the last thing that fascinated me was there is a massive printing press. They have a big one now, but they have built a new warehouse to house an even bigger one. And this printing press will print out different tracts that they use. And they give those to the missionaries, they give those to the workers, they take back to the villages, just to spread God and introduce Him through the tracts in a way that someone wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So I thought that it was super inspiring that there is a huge organization full of God-loving people out there, out in the middle of Tanzania, that want to just spread the word of God. And this showed me what it's truly like to love God with all of your heart and give it all to Him, just like they do out there on the farm. So next is my travel slide. Now, traveling through Africa was an amazing experience. We took a few plane rides to get to Tanzania, but those are boring. You're just sitting on a plane for a few hours, right? So those are all right. But once we got there, I was blown away by God's nature. And this really showed me that God is an all-powerful and creative creator. And just traveling, sorry, one sec. So we got there, did the plane rides, whatever. Then we would get on a bus. And on this bus, we were on it for 2 whole days sitting there. Now imagine you're on a bus, teenager like me, right? No service, can't talk to people back at home, so you just have the people that you're with. But eventually you run out of things to talk about, and so you sleep a lot, right? But like I said earlier, God is a creative God, right? So whenever I would get bored, I would just sit and look out the window. Um, and not having my phone have service on it really helped me disconnect from the things of this world, and reconnect with God and just realize the beauty that He has on this planet for us, and just take in God's love and beauty through nature. So traveling through the country of Tanzania showed me an art that I wouldn't have seen otherwise if I didn't go. Next thing is God's timing. This is like probably one of the biggest things that stuck with me on this trip. So God showed us His timing through many different ways, but the one I remember most is we are on our second day of traveling on this bus, and we are running like super behind schedule. It's terrible. Miss G said we were going to eat lunch at like 11:30 to noon. We ended up eating lunch at like 3:30. So I was starving. So it felt like my stomach was about to eat itself. It was terrible. But we ended up eating super late. The food was actually really good, so that was a blessing. Because you never know what you're going to get sometimes. Half the time it was like just rice and beans, but it was really good. So we stopped, we ate, but that's besides the point. But we ended up driving for probably about another few hours. Again, no service, so I'm just looking out the window. And Mr. Russell points out, and these two lions, those two on this, yeah, on the side of the road. And I remember seeing those lions, and I was scared, honestly. They're probably about as close from like me to Mike right now. I was like poking my head out the window, trying to get a good view on them with my phone recording, you know. So I was scared, honestly. I've never been that close to lions before, but it was really cool to see those. And then on safari, we got to see a whole bunch of different animals after we finished our trip. We saw more lions. There was a whole bunch out on like this new airport that they're building on the safari land. There was at least like 12 there. I only got a picture of these. But then we saw the little dude from The Lion King, a little warthog. I saw a whole bunch of elephants and zebras and giraffes, and it was beautiful. But back to the lions on the road. We saw them, and after we saw them, Mr. Russell, our principal, I remember him saying that, "Hey guys, everybody pay attention. I want to tell you guys something." He said that what we just witnessed now is God's timing. And he said, imagine we were never late to eat. Imagine we were never behind schedule. Who knew if we would have seen these two lions on the side of the road? And there were just many instances like this on the trip where God blessed us in our group, and sometimes we didn't even know it. So it's always reassuring that God's timing is perfect. So work/mission. This was the main point of the trip, was the work that we were there. When we got there, we were split up into two different groups. And one of the groups that I was in, were told to go around and do a whole bunch of little construction projects there. And then the other group was told to go out and paint that big building I was talking about for the new printing press. So I was glad I was in the one with the construction projects, because I would have got bored of the painting real quick. But it was a lot of fun. So for our first project we did was moving a whole bunch of brush, and there was this building that was like collapsing that they bulldozed over, because their buildings are made out of mud brick and clay and wood. So they just took a bulldozer and went straight through it because it was collapsing. So they had us pick up all the wood, put it in a fire, and burn it down, and then all the brush in the area, burn that down so their campus would look a little nicer. So we start this fire. It's really small. It's controlled for the most part. But I remember going around and picking up this huge like top half of a tree, like think like little baby tree, but all the leaves were dead on it, but it was covered in leaves. And I see the fire, I pick it up, and I like look over to one of my friends, and I'm like, watch this. And I take it and I lay it on the fire, and then the fire like shoots up. It's huge. It's that big fire right there. That fire was probably about 20 feet in the air. I remember Brady telling me he was on the other side of the trees that is right there. And he told me that he could see the top of the flames over the trees, which that was cool. But it got out of hand and the fire kind of spread, so me and like a whole bunch of my friends had to go around with sticks and start beating the ground. But I don't know, that was a cool experience. And then we did this ditch with the blue pipe. That led to this really big hole in the ground that we had to fill in with bricks and put a layer of dirt on top, because that's their drainage system for the kitchen that is behind, kind of over there. So we had to dig that, and then digging that ditch, it hurt. We all got blisters, but we pushed through and we made it work. So there was a couple more projects. They had us do a fence, so I learned how to lay a fence, and then that's a little look on the inside of the warehouse that was built with painting and everything. So yeah, that's kind of the work we were there. Now, Derek, I want to tell you a little bit about Derek. Derek was called the storyteller. And one of his stories is what really like pulled this trip together for me. There was a period in time where I was becoming really burnt out from all of the work that we were doing. Because even though some parts of it was really fun, and I had a blast, like with the fire, for example, I was getting really bored because they had us moving a lot of bricks. That big hole I was telling you about that goes to their drainage system was probably about 10 foot in diameter and like 15 foot deep. And they had these huge brick piles that they wanted us to take these bricks and put it into the hole so that they could use that for their drainage system. So I was getting really burnt out from that. The bricks were big and heavy, and we did at least like 25 loads of like taking bricks, putting it on a trailer, driving that trailer over to the hole, dumping them in. So I was getting burnt out. But yeah, I remember asking God, why are we here? And I was just wondering, like, it's planned for us. Like, was the work that we were doing pointless? Was the work we were doing gonna help and affect the farm in any way, shape, or form? But that night after I asked God, this guy named Derek came to the place that we were staying. And he told us a story, because he's the storyteller. And he told us a story that really impacted me. And this story is about this old guy who walks the same path every day. He's walked the same path every day for 50 plus years, right? He was telling us that everyone has their hobbies, and this man's hobby was to walk. But this old man, he sat back. And every day on his walks, he would take a little pebble and throw it into the river. He would pick up these little sticks and put them into a pile, kind of clear the pathway off that he would walk. And every day he would say hi to somebody in a kind way, and a nice way that he knew how to. So this old man, he was thinking, sat back, chilling at his house. And he was thinking, why did he go on these walks every day? Why did he throw the little pebbles into the river and put the little sticks on a pile and say hi to people every day. Like, why did he do these things? Maybe it was pointless. Why was he doing it? But Derek, he expanded the story. He said that this old man didn't realize this, but every day that he would walk on the path became smooth. So people that were running or people that were riding their bikes could ride on it. And that was good. And the little pebbles he threw into the water made the water shallow enough so that little kids could play in it. And the little sticks that he made into a pile would help the homeless, and they would make a fire out of them. And whenever he would say hi to somebody in a kind way, it made their day, and they had a better day overall because of it. So sometimes when it feels like we aren't doing enough day by day, the little things add up. Like whenever we were moving those bricks, it's really going to help the kitchen staff that are there at the farm to have a good drainage system so that they can make good, productive food for the people that work there. And so that story right there really pulled through for this trip and gave my mission a purpose on why we were there. And the last thing that we were there for were the kids. Like I said earlier, there was an elementary school there. And every morning before we started work, we would go to the elementary school that was on the property and give health talks and share Bible stories with the children that were there. And I thought that we were there to minister to them, right? But ultimately, they ministered to us missionaries, and they didn't even know it. Every morning when we would sing songs, they would sing out so passionately and so beautifully for Jesus. And they would get super into the health talks that we would do. They would be super interactive with us. And then Miss Evelyn, she would tell Bible stories, and they would be super attentive and pay attention to her. So it was just touching, and it was a good reminder that we should have a fire and have a love for Jesus like a child, a love that burns for him and that is passionate. So in all reality, it is the children that ministered to me and not the other way around. So I want to challenge everybody that is here this morning to try and see God in every situation that you're in, whether it's big or small. And I promise you that you will find a new love for God that you have never seen before. So, yeah, thank you.